Hello, cluster team. Can you hear me? Looks like X is rugging or the AMA is rugging. Not really sure. If anybody can hear me, please give me an emoji or a sign that you can hear me. If anybody can hear me, please give me an emoji or a sign that you can hear me.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are now. Hello.
Oh my God, I don't know what's been happening. Like, I've been trying to talk or even listen, but yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
really sorry about that.
No problem. I was also late, so all were no problem at all. GM everyone, and thank you for hanging in there while we work through the glitches of X. So here we are.
Yeah. All right. I think should we get started now? I think we should because it's already been like too much time. So yeah, let's get started. GM everyone, and I'm super happy to finally host you guys. And in this AMA session, we have our recent partner, which is PAI3, and we have Pradeep from PAI3. So without further ado, let's get started. Just to give you a quick intro about Cluster and myself, I am Anjali, and I work as marketing head for Cluster Protocol. And Cluster Protocol is basically making the intelligence coordinated, go on, and trustless. So enough about Cluster. Let's get started with our partner, I3. Yeah. So please feel free to unmute yourself and do let us know a bit about yourself and as well as what you guys are building at PI3.
Well, great. Thank you for having us here, Anjali. And Cluster is a great partnership, and we're very excited about it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Hope you're all doing great. End of the week is coming, so I'm sure you're all getting ready for the weekend. I'm going to try to make this thing fun. Introduction about PI3, as Anjali requested. So PI3 is an AI container system which gives users and businesses containers to run locally on their devices in their business and allows them to store data and run agents locally, and then uses federated compute when the agents need more inference power. And you can therefore keep all your data private. You can keep all your business information from being leaked, and you can run agents against that data in a very personalized, individualized manner. And you can tap into the community run nodes if you need additional compute power. It also has the ability for you to design specialized domain models. So let's say a model around real estate, or a model around law in a specific country, or around healthcare disease condition, or around maybe trading or gaming. Doesn't matter. The idea is that you can build community sponsored, community trained, community verified, specialized models that then grow in reputation as they are used. And effectively, over time, we can remove the need for the business to ever share their information with an LLM, because we have all the technology in the node to vectorize your data so that you never have to upload your medical records or your credit cards to ChatGPT. You can send a well formulated prompt, a RAG, and the data never leaves your control. So, having this ability to run localized containers for personal use, for business use, for community use, allows adoption of AI in a manner that centralized AI cannot and will not achieve. And that's what PI3 is. It's a tokenized system. Token is actually a fundamental necessity of our system. Without token and trustless, permissionless system, no business can or should trust an agent, and can or should trust the motivation of this economy. So everybody, all transactions are open on the chain. Agent use, agent revenue, agent interaction with other agents, agent consumption of certain data. Without actually putting the data on the chain, we create a complete metadata system which allows everybody to get paid properly. node operators, data contributors, agent reviewers, agent publishers, stakers, delegators. The whole economic model is open. And because it's tokenized, there are no secrets. There is nobody in between the user and the agent, taking money out of anybody's hand. So it's truly tokenized system. And last thing is, we've been very careful to design this economy around a deflationary token. PAI3 token will never be sold in the market per se. There's no ICO, there is no IDO. It's a fair launch token. At the end of the year, we will launch it with the objective that contributors, operators, takers, delegators, builders all have access to this token through their activity. So you earn the token. You don't go out there and get a SAFT from us to get a bunch of tokens. There are no VCs. There are no secret token allocations. Everything is totally transparent. And all of this boils down to one thing: trust. Businesses should be able to trust our network. They should be able to trust our agent. They should be able to trust the data that was used to train the agent. They should be able to trust that the payment for their agents is happening in a transparent way. Everything has to be based on trust. And the only way we can achieve trust is through permissionless open AI economy. So we are basically building an alternative to open AI by making really open AI economic model that pays everybody for their contribution real time and in totally transparent manner. The last thing I'll say is that every time an agent is invoked, there's an agent fee, right? It can be monthly subscription, it can be transactional fee. That agent invocation creates a revenue cycle, which then is automatically distributed to the publisher, to the staker, to the delegator, to the node operator, to the data reviewer, to the agent reviewer. Each agent can have its own distribution parameters, and the smart contract will distribute the revenue based on the agent's distribution parameters, which are written on the chain. So everybody can see how $100 booking fee to book a flight, how does it get distributed across different stakeholders. So again, goes back to building trust. Last thing I'll say, and I'll wrap up, is that we have three audiences that we serve. One is a consumer who wants to have a personal AI container to store their personal data and get very personalized agents like book a flight, find me a date, find the right restaurant, I want to lose weight, whatever. That personal node contains a agent that knows and learns about you and can do zero knowledge interaction with third-party agents. So you don't have to share your medical records for your node to talk to, a something that can help you manage your healthcare. So there is a zero knowledge interface between you and your digital avatar and all the agents that you want to use in the future. There is a business node which focuses on doctors, lawyers, accountants, real estate agents, financial planners, electricians, plumbers, traders, gamers who basically want to use business data sets to run their business better, to make more money. So we are really focused on revenue growth and business process automation. Those agents work differently. They work against cabinets. Each cabinet can store data for a patient or a client or a case or a building or a so you can do proper data segmentation, and then you can run agents against cabinets. And the third type of node is the power node, which is given to those who want to contribute compute to the ecosystem and really make money from everybody else using agents. So power nodes are node operators who are used to mining, you know, coins or supporting protocols and validating transactions. So for them, they can run power nodes, or you can too as well, and provide the compute power for all this inference to happen. So personal node, professional node, and power node are three different ways people can power or participate in the PAI3 system. So that's a big picture. We're very excited to work with Cluster. We're very excited to be here. Looking forward to where this conversation goes. So again, thanks for joining us, everyone. And Anjali, back to you.
Wow, that was like perfectly summed up, and we were able to look at the big picture and everything around it, and which is like super super insightful. And I noticed that you've mentioned a few things like privacy, and you know there's a lot of things that we would love to even uh, dive deeper and explore about it. And you've mentioned about running AI locally on personal devices, which is I think really, really awesome for privacy. But what about the risk of bad actors exploiting this? Like, what take do you have on this, and how do you protect users from, let's say, malicious AI agents or data leak while trying to keep the system open and decentralized?
Oh, it's a great question. So, right now on Lovable, there are over a million agents. Most of them are not worth talking about, but there is a huge quantity of agents. And building an agent is not difficult. You can build an agent within minutes or using certain tools now. What that does and how trustworthy that agent is a completely different question. And that therein lies the issue. We can't just let any agent interact with our data. Whether you're a human being or you're a business operator or business, you need to know whether this agent is going to consume your data correctly. And you can't know that. So then what do? You can't just blindly pick an agent and run it. And even well-intended corporates, agents, which Deloitte might publish their agent, say, hey, we have a really cool agent to do gap accounting and auditing, and you can trust us. No, you can't, because you don't know how that agent has been trained, what bias it contains, and how it is using your data, and what information it will remember about you that can be used against you. So ultimately, the way you achieve in a personal node, you don't trust anybody. Our vision is, the only way you trust is by trusting no one. So how would then that work? So you store your data in your personal node. Let's say my credit card receipts, my medical records, my blood tests, my boarding passes, maybe my social media feed, maybe my Google Drive, access to my Gmail. PAI3 node talks to everything that you wanted to talk to. You can connect it to practically any source of information that you have in your life. And you allow the node to store that data, but who can see that data? No one. There is a local classification and inference agent that runs and learns from that data, but it doesn't talk to anybody other than you. So you can talk to your own agent and ask questions like, hey, how many times did I fly last year? I know I fly a lot. I have no idea whether I took 5 flights or 50 flights. And it can tell you that based on the information I have. You took 49 flights last year, 32 were with United. All that information, useful information about ourselves. But then there's a second dimension to this agent. You can tell this agent that you are okay with this agent answering questions to, let's say, a medical prescription agent or a weight loss agent that you wanted to interact with. But your agent will never share the raw data. It can answer questions in a zero knowledge fashion. It can give the other agent enough information for that agent to do the job. So now let's say that you have a booking agent published by Kayak or by Orbitz or Priceline or whoever, and you wanted to book a flight for you. That agent can interact with your personal agent and ask questions like, which airline he likes to fly, or whether he likes to sit in window or aisle. And your agent can give those answers for the external agent to perform its job. But that external agent doesn't need to look at your credit card receipts. It doesn't need to look at your boarding passes and figure out where you went last year. So the interface between you as a human being and this whole new agentic world that's going to happen to us, whether we like it or not, where everything that we do today will be done by an agent. How do we protect ourselves, and how do we interact with agents that we don't know? Well, we don't tell them anything more than they need to know to do their job. So building this interface between you and the agentic world is the job of the PAI3 personal node. And that's why we think that ultimately everyone is going to end up using this kind of a digital avatar that represents you, talking on your behalf to other agents while keeping you protected. Because otherwise, you can't blindly just turn over your Gmail access to some agent that claims to be a flight booking agent and wants to scroll through your emails and find all your past bookings. You can't do that. So we train your digital avatar to represent you in an agent to agent interaction. And that agent to agent interaction is what protects you in the end. And your raw data, your life identifying data, stays behind your ZK agent. It's never exposed to the external world. So that's how the personal view of personal protection, personal privacy is being handled. In the business world, cabinets deal with that. So you can create a power, you can run a professional node which gives you access to cabinets, and you have a data organization agent where you can say, you know what, I'm an accountant and I am currently doing bookkeeping for 2,000 companies. So what I want you to do is to create 2,000 cabinets and store each client into its own cabinet. And then I can run agents on a client by client basis, and I can give agents access to a certain cabinet, because not every client is, should be permit, or any client data should not be permitted to be accessed by anyone. So you have this cabinet based segregation of data. And then you can, on top of it, run a data classification agent and say, I want to de-identify the client before it interacts with an external agent. Or you can run agents locally that you have trust and you verify, because the PAI3 community has reviewed them, rated them, and have given them a high reputation. And there is a lot of stake behind that agent. So it's not likely to steal your data. So in that sense, either you go for trusted agents that were community verified, or you go for agents you don't trust by giving them access to a specific cabinet. And further, you can interface with this untrusted agent through a data interface that will generate the right vectors for you. So no raw data ever goes to this third party agent that you don't know what it's going to do. So you can vectorize or even generate the proper RAG and hand it to the other agent. So in this sense, we are basically saying, you shouldn't know anything about my healthcare to book a flight for me. You shouldn't know anything about my travel habits to write me a prescription for ibuprofen. And agents that interact with me should interact with me for the purpose that they are supposed to interact. And my agent will protect me from these agents having unfettered access to my life. So both personal and business, the architecture is similar, but implementation is different. The few personal are a holistic unit, but a business can deal with many, many units of data, and each data can then be cabinetized, and each cabinet can represent a client or a customer. So architecture is not simple. Problems are of this magnitude are never simple to solve, but the PAI3 architecture is designed to address basically a human agent interface. You are the back end of this interface. You have an agent representing you, who then interacts with all the other agents that you have to deal with.
Thank you very much, Pradeep, for helping us understand how exactly it's working behind the scene. And my next question is also something around the information that you've just shared. Because decentralized AI means like nobody is not there's no single authority to have to look at bad actors or biased models. So how does Pi3 plan to handle these ethical dilemmas and let's say misinformation or anything harmful AI behavior when, as you've mentioned, governance is community driven and the trust is decentralized?
Yeah, very good point. So there are many ways to solve this problem. It's multi-headed, but if you look from a community point of view, we have created a role in the community called community reviewers, and they are very handsomely paid with Pi3 tokens. And the community reviewer's job is to do three things. One, they can review data sets which are used to train agents, and they can give a trust score to this data sets. So if I'm a doctor and I'm looking at data set that's being trained to build the agent to predict childhood obesity, I have the ability to go and give that data set a low or high marks, and that will matter because I'm a sort of I have a high reputation in the community myself. So there's a data set review function. There is an agent review function where the community can review, the agent builder can request community review and should request. If they don't have enough reputation, they can launch that agent in the community anyway. So you need to have on a 0 to 5 reputation, minimum 3.0 reputation to even bring your agent to market. Prior to that, you need to get more reviewers to approve your agent. So there is that agent verification and certification. And of course, if I am a trained cardiologist and I have I'm giving my high score to your cardiology agent, well, obviously that's going to have a meaningful impact on your reputation. You can also increase your reputation once you get to 3.0, the baseline. You can buy up your reputation by staking a lot of PAI3 tokens, which means that if your agent behaves badly, that your stake will be slashed and that'll be paid out to the people who use your agents and were harmed by it. So there is this ability to stake agents behind your stake tokens behind your agent to say, look, I built a good agent. I'm confident I'm not stealing anybody's data, and I'm willing to stake it with 5 million PAI3 tokens. So you can do that. The third element of this is LLM training, and this is the most exciting part. Our vision for decentralized AI, and if you really are honest today, all AI is centralized, including all the decentralized AI. Why? Because when you ask people, okay, so how are you actually driving the inference? The answer is, well, I'm calling the Claude API, or I'm calling the OpenAI ChatGPT API. You're ultimately calling a centralized inference API somewhere. So, we can pretend to be all decentralized in the front end, but in the back end, inference is 100% centralized. We believe and have invested in the notion of decentralized inference machine, which first can orchestrate inference between models. So instead of asking the question from Claude, I can ask the same question from DeepSeek, Claude, Llama, Gemini, and do inference orchestration. I can chain the inference. So inference patterns, we have 3 inference patterns in the DIM: chained inference, collaborative inference, and consensus inference. Chained inference goes in sequence like the chain would. Inference from model A is fed into model B, and so on. Collaborative inference is where you run different data sets against the same inference. You generate RAGs from different data sets, and you check to see if the inference is hallucinating. And if you ask the model questions about 10 kids, given their genetic makeup, and you end up with some crazy answer, you know that the model is not really working properly. Or the third way you can do it is you can do consensus, where you can sorry, this is what I just described as consensus. The third is collaborative, where you can essentially run inference against multiple data sets and build a histogram and say, okay, what's my dispersion of this inference? Do I have outliers? I'll ignore the outlier inference and stick with the belly of the beast, the bell curve. So those kind of things are already permissible. So DIM lets you do these 3 inference patterns, which means based on the type of agent you're building, you can build very, very powerful agents very easily. To do any of these 3 patterns using Lovable or Hugging Face, type of, or lane graph or Claude API is a very complex and expensive thing. So by giving you these inference patterns out of the box, we are driving very powerful agents to the PAI3 ecosystem. So that's the third way. And the final way is, because you can contribute data and that data contribution can be tracked on the chain, community can build their own specialized LLMs. We are currently building very interesting specialized LLMs in PAI3. One of them is around heat signature of high rises, and how can a specialized language model, it's not large, it's a specialized, an SLM language model that can understand how to optimize the heat consumption of skyscrapers like the Burj Khalifa or the Empire State Building. That model has to learn something very specific about civil engineering, about heat loss, about HVAC, and all those things, which a normal large language model will be able to give you generic answers, but will never be able to design a heat management and energy efficiency for a skyscraper. So that's an example of a specialized model. Another one of our clients is building a uh, predicting childhood obesity and propensity towards diseases before the child is born, looking at the parent's profile, looking at the socioeconomic status of the parent, looking at the genetic and the pre-existing conditions they might have in their family, and predicting what to do for the kid before they are born. From the day they are born, how can we keep them healthy for the next 18 years, given pediatric care? This is a really exciting model to train, but it needs very specialized training by pediatricians using very industry specific data, which neither XAI has access to nor it should. So these specialized models is what we want the community to build. So we are basically building a community of professionals, who can come into the PAI3, develop these models, have the community train them with their data sets, verify them, have the community continuously review and repute them. And as a result, you end up with never going to a centralized LLM. So the journey from where we are to where we want to be in 3 years is to basically eliminate the need for you to call a central LLM of any kind, to maybe 1% of the time. 99% of your RAGs will be handled by PAI3 local LLMs, and for which the revenue goes to the community for having trained the LLM. So you see, the whole economic model is designed to take the hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue that OpenAI is targeting, and because they're expecting their revenue to grow to 180 billion a year. Think about it. Almost $1 billion a day is what they expect to make from our use of ChatGPT. Our view is that's the wrong model. No, that's fundamentally exploitative and fundamentally puts us all at risk as humanity, and especially as a business operator. We should never ever load data we have custody over, that we received custody because we are a professional, we were trusted with this data, and shove it off to Elon Musk. That's just illegal and it's inappropriate. So basically, we are building an alternative to OpenAI, XAI, for the business, for the consumer, where you have full agency and control over your information and your identity, and your representative agents can talk to the world, but you know that they're not leaking information about you just because you need to book a flight. That's the mindset. So ultimately, you will end up with specialized LLMs, language models, followed by local large language models, followed by the if you need to finally still hit a LLM hosted by third party, you could do that, but your agent should really never have to cross the boundary of the network to get the job done. Did that make sense, everyone? Anjali and others?
Yes, yes, it does. It does. And when you've particularly, talked about how important it is for everyone uh to, you know, have their own like control on their own data, which is like very, very important. And I think it's great to, have these spaces where we talk about all of this and make everyone aware about it, because um there's I feel that there's still some maybe lack of awareness, or maybe it's too much technical for people. But then, you know all this technology that we're talking about, and having a vision for, I think that's only possible and executable when everyone is involved in it, right? So, but then, there's also one part which is like important for them to understand, which is the AI creator economy. And it's like becoming very trendy. But then, there's something which is not really good, which is, you know they being logged into centralized platforms. And it's like, how does this Pi3 flip the script and truly empower creators to own, monetize, and scale their AI creations on their own terms?
Yeah, it's a very good point. So first is, to make a successful agent. Let's talk about the real meat and potatoes of building a successful agent. First you need to have a well-defined use case, which I assume that everybody who's trying to build an agent will say, okay, this is the problem I want to solve. I want to make a great agent to book the most efficient, most upgradable flight using points and credit card earnings and whatnot. Uh, so definitely you want to have a well-defined problem you want to solve. The second is you want to understand what the data set is on which you're going to train and test your data and your agent, because the LLM is going to give you inference, but your job as an agent is to generate the RAG, which leads to the inference. So your job as an agent is to really make sure that you create the right prompts to create the right. So the LLM is only as good as the RAG you send it. Otherwise, it's going to hallucinate and give you made up answers. So a lot of the hallucination problem is because the queries are too generic, and LLMs will fill in the blanks if you think about how they work. it's easy for them to fill in the blanks. You don't want to do that. So you want to give as precise a RAG as you can for your agent to be useful. So we help you generate that RAG properly by using the DIM methods. So again, it goes back to, can you, and the third defense and key point is, how does your agent interact with local or personal data, which goes back to how do you generate the RAG. So in a nutshell, you can build agents using any technology you like. I mean, that doesn't matter. What matters is how your agent interfaces with the data set on the left side, and how well it interfaces with other agents and LLMs on the other side. So we give you both the tools with the DIM. The DIM, the decentralized inference machine, gives you methods to access local data, which is your container, your cabinet, where the highly pertinent user data is. The DIM gives you the tools to interact with that data, either in raw format if you've been given access, or through the ZK interface for your agent to know things it needs to know to generate the right RAG. So you have the DIM methods for data, and then you have DIM methods for orchestrating inference. How do you know which LLM to use? Well, you can run a consensus pattern, and the DIM will go hit all the configured LLMs that you wanted to hit. Or in the future, you can hit only the LLMs hosted on PAI3 network and keep the data, keep all the inference local. So all these inference pattern capabilities of DIM and the data access capabilities of DIM are easy to use methods. So if you use those methods, your agent suddenly becomes a heck of a lot more efficient, and you can launch it faster, and you can make people will trust it more because the PAI3 community has reviewed your agent. And if you use DIM, everything that you do in the agent is automatically transparent. So community can review it and say, I see this agent is doing good things and the right things, and I see this agent is doing bad things. So DIM is going to make your agent internals public to the reviewers, which means your somebody's review is going to actually matter. It's not based on what you say, it's based on what they see. So we're giving the foundational trust layer for agent builders to use to access data in a trusted way, to generate the right RAG, to interface with multiple LLMs, to orchestrate the inference. And that's exactly what is missing for you to launch agents that people will actually trust and use. Otherwise, it's just another agent from these websites where you have no idea who built it, how they trained it, and what it does. So essentially bringing a framework which you can plug your agent into from a data access and from inference orchestration perspective, solves the trust and the transparency problem. No matter how you're building the agent, no matter what language you're using, we don't really care. What we care is that you use our DIM methods to access the data, generate the RAG, interact with the LLM, orchestrate the inference, and all of that is public, meaning that your information can be trusted, your agent can be used in compliant industries, and people can actually pay you for something because you're going to be much better than just relying upon the inference of a single LLM. So those are the tools we are building for people who really want to make revenue from running agents. And I do think that that is the future. A lot of the jobs we are doing today will be replaced by agents. So the way for us to have agency and economic freedom is to either learn how to use agents, or even better, learn how to build agents for ourselves and others. This is absolutely critical. And we are basically giving you the tool set to build agents that others will trust and use and pay for.
Well, that's pretty interesting. And with that, can we say that Pi 3 could be the missing brain for on-chain agents? Or like, as we know that everyone's building crypto native agents, but again, like, who's powering their thinking? So can we say Pi 3 become the decentralized cognition layer?
It's really smart way to say it. We haven't thought about it that way, but you have, and you've done a really good job of summarizing. A decentralized cognition layer is a really elegant way to say what we're doing. I think there's another dimension to it beyond the layer view, which is a really good one. Is that Pi3 is building a trust framework where agent builders, model trainers, agent users have a trust layer they can count on, for agent behavior, agent consumption of data, protection of your data, declassification and de-identification of your data, and most importantly, fair reward system where everybody is getting rewarded fairly without any revenue sinks where money is disappearing, so that users know who is going to get paid when they use an agent, which leads to greater trust as well. So we are really focused on building an economic flywheel, um, and we believe that this economic flywheel, properly managed by a community and supported by a token, can compete very strongly with centralized AI, and can actually pick up a significant portion of revenue that nobody's talking about, which is the B2B usage of AI. I mean, even OpenAI's current predictions of 180 billion a year in revenue is mostly based on individual usage. A much bigger economic wheel can be created if you build agents that are used, by 3 point. There are a million physicians in the U.S. alone. There are almost a million lawyers. There is over 3 million nurses. There is almost a million accountants. You got these professionals who would dare not touch ChatGPT. In fact, most hospitals, clinics, lawyers have been banned from using ChatGPT for the same reason that I mentioned. You can't trust the model and you can't share data with that model. It's illegal or unethical or both. But if you bring cabinets and agents to the legal law firm's office running in under their control, and the agents that you are running are not random but verified by other lawyers or legal teams, it becomes a lot more exciting. So there is in my mind, $100 billion or more revenue wheel that nobody is focused on, that PAI3 is trying to bring to the Web3 community.
Uh, Sorry. Yeah. Um, that that actually makes sense. That do make sense. And I would say that with that, we have come to the end of the space. And like before we end this session, do you have like any closing notes that you would like to share with our community, or you think that the community should know before we end the session?
Well, first, thank you for joining, everyone. And I know that the X was rugging in the beginning, so thanks for hanging in there with us. The second is that I would say very simply this: whether you like it or not, whether you are a crypto believer, whether you are a consumer who is technology averse, whether you are a power user of tech, agentic economy is gonna surround us very, very quickly. We are going to live in an agentic world, whether we like it or not. You are not going to browse websites. You're going to have agents do everything for you. And even if you don't like it, the website themselves will replace it with an agentic interface. And within a few years, you will not be talking to a website, you'll be talking to a chatbot handling your flight booking for you, as an example. In that world, your data becomes more valuable. Your time will be consumed with completely different things than we do today. So you have to get ready for the agentic economy. So there are three ways you can do that. One, you can learn to use agentic economy without losing agency over your existence. Because if you don't do that, agents will know more about you than you will, and they will manipulate you the way you don't want to be manipulated. And that's already coming. So learn to protect yourself in the agent economy. You do that by running, using technologies like PAI3 personal node to create your digital avatar, which will then interact with all these agents that are going to demand access to your data. This is one. The second is, as a business, you are going to end up needing to run agents, because if you don't, you're not going to be competitive. You're going to go out of business. Imagine the difference between a doctor who has a really smart agent that can answer questions about your prescription or your prior visit or your blood test result, so you don't have to wait for a visit with a doctor, and the one that doesn't. You're going to end up going to pharmacies and labs and lawyers and accountants who have smart agents who can interact with you anytime, 24/7, and answer most of your questions. Those agents are going to make the difference between success and failure. So as a business, you're going to have to learn to use agentic economy in a way that we are describing. And if you want to benefit from this, then you need to participate in networks like PAI3, run a node, buy a node, run a node, build an agent, become a reviewer, whatever. There are so many ways, simple ways for you to be part of agentic networks like ours. And like it or not, that's the way you're going to be making more money than working for somebody. So long and short of it is, in your personal life, in your business, and as a additional way to participate in AI economy, you have multiple ways. Run your personal node, run a business node, or run a community node, or review agents, or contribute data. It's an open economic model, and you have actually more to contribute than you may realize. So get involved. Don't wait, whether you work with us or work with somebody else, but get ready for agentic economy, because it's coming, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, definitely. And everyone, Pi3 Vault is live on Candy Machine, where you can convince the AI agent and learn more about Pi3 and win real rewards. So do check that out. It's candymachine.fun. Awesome. Thank you very much, Pradeep, for joining us for today's AMA session, and everyone for taking out their time. And with that, let's end this.
Thanks,
Hope
everyone. Have a great day. Super excited to be here, and thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.